Hello, welcome to Astro Breeze Astrology Study Group. And basically, it's whoever wants to study astrology, follow what some of the things that I'm looking into, trying to bring my awareness to, and thus share it with you. And last week, we started into looking at comparing relationships, at all kinds of relationships. And we were looking at two charts and comparing one to the other, which is called synastry. This week, we're going to look at it in a different way, where look, we're going to compare and kind of mush the two charts together into something called a composite chart. And you'll need the birth times, you'll need the exact birth times of this, and the date and time and everything. And you can calculate this on AstroSeek or Astro Charts for free. And basically, you're just um, typing in both of those charts, and then you're hitting the composite. And which the composite, as you see, it's a result of two birth charts added together to find the mathematical midpoint of each placement. It may sound a little confusing at first, but it's really averaging the median point between each placement in the chart. So for example, if person A has a Aries sun and person B has a Gemini sun, then the midway point between those two would be Taurus, because Taurus is a sign between Aries and Gemini. And then you would repeat that for all the other planets and the houses, and you would come up with a totally unique entity. It's pretty cool. So we would come up with a totally unique entity of combining these two charts. So you do the composite and it mushes them together. So how do you read a composite? Because now you are taking that amalgamation, and I'll go over this a few more times just so we get it. That amalgamation of the two charts together. You're not separate anymore like you are in a synergy. In a synergy, you go, oh, my sun is square your sun, or my sun is trine your sun. And we get the differences between the two people. In a composite, you are becoming one. Again, if you had an Aries sun and the other person had a Gemini sun, together you act like a Taurus sun. Yeah, really. So you think about the different relationships in your life that you've had, and then other people, you can see, why do they act that way around me and that way around them or that person? Well, they're a whole different combination. I mean, they're still themselves, but they adapt and are different. It's like, why are you sucking up around that person? or why are you bowing down? Or why are you acting inferior to this one? Or why are you always trying to teach this one? Or why does this just take you in a way, in a place you've never been? So this is what we're going to explore a little bit today. So when we read a composite chart, unlike a birth chart, this arrangement of everything, houses, planets in the house, everything will represent the relationship, not the individuals. So it's like maybe this person, like say your sun is just maybe below the horizon over on the, like say your sun is in the sixth house and your partner's sun is maybe at the midheaven. Well, that's going to pull your sun up into above the horizon. So you're going to act more outer with that person than you would by yourself. Okay. So those things happen. It's like, why does that person make me this way? Right? Okay, let's see now. If we look at all of the little relationships between each person's sun, each person's moon, the composite, this is kind of where we're going to kind of start. I'm giving you some generalities. So your composite mushing together of your suns are going to be how your new ego is, how the vitality or the identity that you kind of are, your core focus. The moon will be your emotional expression and intuition. Mercury again will be the processing of your mental thoughts and your communication style. That's pretty interesting because some people, it's funny. It's like some people I can be really, gruff and talk like a sailor. Another person, around other people I wouldn't dare. It's like, no, I would never. Yeah, it's like who can you be yourself around? Who makes you be different in different areas? Venus is going to bring out like your relationship itself, the commitment, the style of your relationship, or any financial mindset too. It's like, I mean, of course, all relationships are going to have something in that. But then if it's a business relationship, it would be more toward one way than a love or romance would be more toward the other. Mars will be its ambition, drive, or the sexual energy, or the fighting style. So if you were both cardinal sign and then the middle of that might be it might be part fixed or it might be mutable depending on where it's at, but it's like if you were both cardinal, then it tended to be met in the middle somewhere. Let's say it were mutable, it would kind of wash out both of your cardinal wanting to duke it out. Or if it were a combination, if it were a fixed energy, you guys, that cardinal energy just might get stuck. So you can see this is kind of very interesting. Jupiter will be your, how you expand with the other person, where your abundance lies. The combination of your both of your energies on that, your luck and how well you'll fare with stuff. Composite Saturn will be the restriction boundaries and sometimes karmic lessons with Saturn. Uranus would be your innovation, uniqueness, or instability, where the other relationship can go off the rails. Neptune is where there's escapism, fantasy, or delusion, I might add, where you're hiding from each other, or deluding, or misled, or confused. And composite Pluto is where there's transformation, there's power, there's control. There's could be control issues. All right, and I'm not going to get so much into this, but just to give you an idea, the first house is always going to be like the identity, the appearance, the first impression. The second house is going to be, values, security, financial opportunities. It's the same old, okay? So communications, fourth house roots, family. This is just going to maybe change how you would be totally as to your combination with the other person. All right, let's change. Let's do a new share. And reading a composite chart. So they're going to be read in pretty much the same way as a natal, except that you'll be looking more at the planets and the houses, not so much the signs. Well, no, it's just kind of like, where is this relationship taking place? All right, let's see. Let's like the fourth house is an especially sensitive area. So if you have like all of a sudden like your son might be in the first house and your partner's is in the seventh house and together it's in the fourth house. So there's maybe a lot of stuff going on with the home for you. It might be a sensitive spot. That might be a whole issue thing, with that energy bringing you there. The fifth and 11th might be good for personal relationships, because the fifth is, it could be your creations. It may, it says it's, I don't like to always go with allied with love, love affairs, or it's just your creative house. It's where you create. And your 11th house is where you can be friends with somebody. Second and eighth might be a little bit more down and dirty, kind of, emotional, sexual, financial, security oriented. And then the sixth and 12th could definitely be more problematic because you have the duty and responsibility there. The 6/12 axis may have more karmic connotations, especially when the sun and moon or the ruling planets of there are present. Okay, we'll get a little bit deeper in this here. What else do I want you to see? I got that one, and see, I'll give you this one. I think I got this one. All right. How do synastry and composite charts work? Just give you a little bit of difference, and then we'll go look at one and see. Synastry is the impact you and your partner have on each other, right? This is like, my sun is square your sun, or my sun is opposite your sun. This is how we are impacting each other. If my sun is opposite your sun, where our suns unite, the midpoint will be a square. So this is showing you how your energy then is together. The biggest difference is that you have more control over a synastry aspect than a composite aspect. That's because you are one half of the synastry aspect. So it's like if your partner agrees to work with you together, you stand a good chance of moderating or enhancing that aspect's impact on your life. Obviously, you can't completely erase a Venus Saturn square between you, but you can certainly tackle it together. And then this would, this could be better as the couple ages. The Venus and Saturn might be more um, liking the aging, or being um, uh, you can take the good parts of stabilizing your finances, maybe. Okay, what else here? The composite aspects are more challenging because you can't approach them as you are working on your planet while your partner deals with their planet. Composite aspects are like the natal aspects of a third entity. Suppose you've never been in a relationship that takes on a life of its own, or where you feel like a different person. That's the composite chart in action. That's what I was saying. If you, like, your sun is below the horizon and with that other person, now it's above the horizon, that's going to make a big difference. You're used to be ducking out and being quiet and not being to the forefront. And then everything when you're with that person is going to be out in the open. Not everything, but I think you know what I'm saying. All right, let's look at this one for an example. Moon Saturn square. Okay, in synastry, with this aspect, with between you, one person's moon and is square the other person's Saturn. So the moon needs and emotional responses challenge Saturn's rules, right? Needy, and then no, you can't. Saturn has his defenses up and doesn't give Moon what she needs, or acts like a strict parent. The solution would be for Saturn to acknowledge that he holds Moon at arm's length or attempts to control her. Yeah. Moon would have to acknowledge what her needs are, and if she takes on the role of a child in response to Saturn. Saturn can lower his defenses in a touch while acknowledging that he's looking for rules, and she offers feelings in return. With self-awareness, both parties, there can be a significant shift away from attention towards security and stability. All right, let's take the same thing in a composite chart. Okay, if we mush together, now all of a sudden there's having that one person's moon and the other person's Saturn. Now it's both that way, not just, thank you. It's not just one to the other. It's that all of a sudden now together you have this together. You never had this before. I mean, of course, it's like when you're with that person, you're, in the synastry, one thing is square to the other, but this is now the combination that you bring together. So let's look at this a little bit. A composite moon square Saturn. This is an indicator of emotional distance, right? Moon and Saturn, they don't, Moon wants to not be under, dad's rule kind of here. How and why will be described by the composite house positions. Okay, let's just say there's a fifth house, composite Saturn square, the second house, composite moon. So we got a fifth and a two. So it might suggest a couple's responsibilities to their children, might place a financial burden on them. So let's just think about that a second. Say fifth house, your creations. So both parties had kids together. And then it's squaring the second house, Saturn, of money and finances. So we got the square with children and money. So there you can see how that might be. So there can be a constant feeling of insecurity, moon, plus the sense that their needs together are never fully met. Maybe their child is disabled and takes up all their time and energy, and there's little left over for them. Or if they don't have children, maybe something about their chemistry together makes it difficult to cut loose and have fun. Another fifth house area. That sensation of being a bit stiff and formal with the relationship will create emotional barriers. This feeling between them will never change, and it will actually grow stronger over time. The longer a couple is together, the stronger all of the composite energies will become. They can work around their moon Saturn square by using any harmonious composite aspects. For example, if the moon trines composite Venus in the sixth house of daily routine, so now we got moon, that moon area is trining Venus in this composite, and say it's in the sixth house. They can express their love for each other through practical things they do. But that feeling that But that feeling that they can't quite get close to each other will not totally change. On the plus side, as with synastry aspect, this can indicate commitment. However, if one of the partners can't live without deep emotional merging, the relationship may not cut it. This is interesting. What is the fix for a challenging composite aspect? The answer is there's no fix. You either have to accept it will always be a part of your relationship and you and your partner work around it, or you move on. You know, it's like with this person, you have that. You know, like some person you may have kids with, some other people you don't, and it's going to be totally different. This is the same kind of a thing. A synastry chart delves into the intricate web of mutual influences and characterizes the unique chemistry between individuals. It goes beyond the surface level and explores the emotional impact they have on each other during their interactions. Synastry, a method employed by astrologers, examines the interplay of energies between two individuals. It allows us to observe and understand the dynamics of affection, communication, sexual compatibility, that attraction that exists between them. All right, there's a bit more here. By determining where the composite suns align with our personal horoscope, we can discern the areas of our lives that will be most influenced by partnership. All right, I'm going to show you. Let's go over to the charts. We go this one. All right. Shoot, I want. Let me read it. Hold on now. Stop share. Let me give you a new share. Share screen. I want. Hopefully this is it. No, oh, it's not being nice. Bear with me a second. There we go. I think. Nope. All right. All right, I want solar fire. Okay, too many windows open. All right, let's see. Okay, let's look at, make sure that you can see this. All right, we're going to look at Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. Let's look at Desi first. I just want to make sure you can see this here. Okay, you should see Desi Arnaz. He is a Pisces. Look at, he's got a Pisces sun with Mars right next to his sun. Mars conjunct the sun. Whoa, big energy there. You know, but in Pisces, you know, Chiron's there too. But interesting. And then look at that little stellium of Aquarius. You have Venus, and then look at the other sex, or look at the other conjunction. Wow, exact. um, wow, that day was interesting. Wow, the Sun and Mars, and then Mercury with Uranus. You know, both conjunctors. Do you have any other ones? Look over here. Wow, wow. This is the guy of the look at the Moon and Pluto. Um, almost to the exact too. Look at both of them are in Cancer. You know, and then the ascendant in Pluto. He's got 3 exact conjunctions in his chart. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Okay, anyway, and then look at, we got a 24, you know, with Saturn and Chiron too, you know, a trine there. Very interesting. And then Jupiter at 3 degrees Taurus, like right in the midpoint of Pluto and the moon. This would be really interesting one to dive into. I think we looked at him a while back, but look with a new light. But I just wanted to get a flavor of the energy that we're dealing with. So we got, you know, most of his planets here are above the horizon, although he's got the moon below. Moon is interesting. Moon is in the first house, so it's squaring that area, so that gives him a lot of energy, right? You know, he's got that. I mean, it's like all that Cancer energy in that firehouse. You know, so he's good at being fiery or okay with some of that. So this will be interesting because when we look at where is she? Lucille. I think you can see it, but let me just make sure this switched. Lucille, there she is. So what a firecracker. Look at this. Sun, Sun in Leo, and then it's interesting that it's like conjunct her vertex, but Sun in Leo, And then like her too, she's got some interesting paired up things, but um, she's got Sun in Leo. She's got a Capricorn rising and a Capricorn moon. So she's got that in conjunct there, but she's got that business minded house, right? You know, right. And as her get go, she's got this serious. This is really funny. You know, the serious, or I should say, maybe mature. You know, and then the moon too. But yet she was such a comedian. You know, such a goof, right? And yet, and she could just be real quick. But she had this serious, like I guess when people first met her, you know, when she's on stage, something totally different's going on. But um, I, I didn't know what I would expect on that. That's kind of interesting. And then she's got all this earthy stuff here. Look at all, I mean, there's Capricorn rising, Capricorn moon, Capricorn Uranus, and then all this Taurus stuff. Um, Taurus, Saturn, and Mars. So, you know, her energy was real grounded. And then, you know, the North Node, all of this over here in this, you know, nice, secure Capricorn. So she was quite the businesswoman. I read, I think, on some of her bio. But anyway, and then look at all this stuff up here in Virgo. Not all this, but a couple things up here. She got Venus and Mercury. So a lot of, you know, the trine energy here is that we have a grand trine? Just about. Yeah, with Mars, the moon, and Mercury. Kind of cool. Wow, a grand Earth trine. So anyway, you can see this fire energy here. You can see this groundedness with her. So now let's look at their chart together. Let's see, is it this one? Yes. I'll make sure you have this. Okay, so I'll remind you, and we'll look at it in a different way in a second. So you can see their midpoints now. Remember, he was a she was a Leo, right? She's a Leo, and then he was Pisces. So you want, if you go Leo, and then you go back to Cancer, one back, and then you go Pisces, one to Aries, and then you go like Gemini and Taurus. So their sun, as you can see, late Taurus. You know, I'm just kind of giving you the distance between, because remember, he was like what, 11 Pisces, and then she was like 12 Leo. So that area, you know, that's going to put them right at the end of Taurus. So together, their energy was very grounding and very stable. And they had the, you know, a business. They worked together. They did well. They had a production, you know, so their energies together became very stable. He went from being real mutable Pisces um, to a fixed stable Taurus, and she went from the fixed Leo to the fixed Taurus. So interesting, she had a bit more movement on hers, you know, a different element, but she was already stable. So okay, there, there. And then what, I can't remember his moon. Let's go look at them both. Let's see, I think I have a dual chart here. There they are. Just wanted to see, okay, so his moon, here's a composite. Don't look at the one on the right here yet. A second, that will confuse you. Hold on a minute. Let me just get it out of the way. Okay, here's here's her their chart. So actually, I want to look at his moon real quick. What is it? Hers is Capricorn, right? And then his is where's his moon? His moon is Libra. I didn't even look. Okay, so Capricorn, Capricorn moon. Oh, look at, they squaring each other there. So Capricorn moon, but they're out, you know, she's an early one, so it won't be exactly there, but it will be, you know, she got that, the Aries composite. There we go. There it is. We have the Aries moon because they had that square between them. Did I say that right? Okay. Anyway, it gets you know, it gets confusing when you're not just pointing one thing out and I'm flipping screens. Okay, so anyway, we can see now that they're both of those moons mushed together to get an Aries moon, which went along with her. I mean, their entity was really, you know, together they were a powerhouse, and she was, you know, loud and, you know, obnoxious in a great way, and pioneering and new and adventurous, that emotional, Aries thing that they had. And look at Mars is there too. Mars is in its own sign. That energy that they had together, and they became an Aries rising. So that energy that they had was very cardinal, very initiatory, very first, and very successful and pioneering. You can see, like, wow, they just had that really interesting energy. Where he was a band director by himself. He was Cuban, and he had a jazz band, or I don't know, not just jazz. They played all kinds of music. Um, so he was in that, that Piscean. When we looked at the musicians, and we saw a lot of musicians have a lot of the Pisces stuff. Well, he was pretty heavy there, right? And so he was into that. Then met her, and she was more. I'm not sure what she did beforehand, but I remember seeing her show. Lucille Ball show after the regular one. The one with just him, and later she went on with her own show, and it was just as big, just as powerful, and she was, probably even more rambunctious. She got maybe more Leo kind of, you know, where together their energies were a little bit more stable. When they had the show together, the old black and white show, she was a housewife, and that energy together, and look at their Taurus, that sun in Taurus. Where by herself she was more fiery, that Leo, redhead, so we got this Mars and Leo, that fire energy on them. So, let's look at this. Okay, now take it to the next level. This is what I want you to see. Yeah. Okay, so now if we're doing a synastry, we're going to compare one thing to the other. We're going to compare moon to moon, sun to sun, da 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 da. So let's say it says, okay, cross Lucille Ball. This is all her stuff on top, and then all of his stuff is along the side. So we're going to just look at them. We're going to switch our heads to synastry, comparing him to her, him to her, him to her, not them mushed together yet. We're going to go back just because I want you to see how this chart works and how you can look at things in another way. And sometimes you have to look at things a few ways, because astrology is just, it's just a way of measuring things. That's all it is. That's all we're doing. We're measuring one thing to another, all over the place, all the time. It's not ooky spooky. It's not weird. It's, if you do things, it's very scientific. It's very heady. It's very mathy. You got to be smart to know astrology. I commend all of you that are, listening to astrology, and all of you that are listening here, because it's tough. It's hard to go through some of these things. So look, we're going back to synastry. This is comparing me to you. Okay. By this to you're that. And look at, we looked at their moons, and there it says that this is an opposition that's going moon to moon. And we saw that their moons were, I can't remember it is now what they were. But anyway, it says, just to help you read it, it's 2 degrees, 47 minutes apart. I don't want to switch screens at the moment. I should have a memory. What was it? Anyway, so it's just telling you that they were almost exactly opposite. Okay. The suns, their suns are in conjunct, because his was Pisces, and then hers was Leo, and they were both like 1 degree apart. Yep, and it tells you, it's like his was 11 and hers was 12, and it's 1 degree applying. Where it's going, 11 is going toward 12. That's I remembered that one. So the inconjunct, that's the 150 degrees apart. So it'd be 149 if it's applying. One is catching up to the other. That's all that means. So that's saying that's, they either didn't have anything in common, but they were mysterious to each other. It's different. Sometimes that inconjunct there, and the suns do that. And then anyway, I'm not going to go through this all, but I just want you to see it. Not everything has something to everything. Like, look at her Venus doesn't have any aspects to anything his except his midheaven. So interesting, huh? Now, how about his Venus to her? See, this is strange. You got to look both ways. His Venus is trining her Pluto and conjunct her Chiron, but her Venus is only opposite his midheaven. So you can see how some people can have certain things, like one person can be chasing the other one, kind of. One is something is approaching one, like we see that they're, the suns, it wasn't a quite the perfect, but one was getting closer to the other. All right, so we can just look at that stuff. But look at how the Jupiters, there's like a trine, her Jupiter trining his moon. Um, his Yeah, let's just go to Jupiter a second. And then his Jupiter is trining her moon. Like both same aspect, right? His Jupiter to her moon, and then her Jupiter to his moon. Okay, trine. So that's interesting, both same. His Jupiter is also trining her Mercury. So that would be like her outspokenness, he's giving a platform to it, right? It's enlarging her, the way she communicates, or something communicative. So yeah, he'd make money off of her, kind of. Um, his Jupiter is opposite her Jupiter. Wow. So there again, that's, anything Jupiter, touches it, it expands. Even though they're opposite, they're looking at each other. It's like, oh, I can see the back of your head, you can see the back of my head. All right, let's make an agreement that we make sure our back of our heads, our hair never look bad. Okay. So that's not bad, Dad. So anyway, this is where you have the synastry, and you're comparing one to the other. Okay, that's is like, we were looking at it in a chart, but sometimes it's nice to see it in a graph like this. All right, what else do I have here for you? This was just his natal. Okay, so I showed you that. And this is just looking at both of their charts together like this, just doing two wheels. Like I want to look at their moons again. So his moon, he's over here, Desi upper right. So his moon is in Cancer. Aw. And then her moon is in Capricorn. So that's like an opposition, right? We saw that. And it was like 2 degrees or 3 degrees off, or just a little bit off. You can see that. So we can look at it that way. See the opposition here, because one Cancer, what's opposite Cancer is Capricorn, and hers is Capricorn there, right? All right, we got that. So we can look this way, and sometimes it's easier to look like this, and I wanted to show you both, and then sometimes it's easier to see it in a chart. All right, just to recap, comparing one to the other like this would be the synastry, and then if we run the midpoints between them, we'll come up with a whole separate entity. And just to show you that again, let's just look at the moons. The moon, his is Cancer, 4 degrees Cancer. Hers is 7 degrees Capricorn. And the shortest distance would be the Aries. So you can argue and say, well, maybe it's in Libra. Well, you would have that you could go the other way, and it's the longer route, going that way with the math. That's why it's in Aries, because it's the shortest between the two. Now, there's one other thing. Where is it? Okay. Just so you've heard it. I'm not going to go heavy in it because I don't want to confuse you too much, but there's another way to compare, and it's called the relationship, the Davidson method. And it's just like we just did, except it will calculate an actual like place. Like say one person was, say she's born in Chicago and he was in Cuba, wherever the city is, the easiest point between those two cities will actually be the place where this fictional meeting would actually be the middle point. So I don't know how well that would be, because they didn't live there together or anything, but astrologers are always trying to put things into different types of measurements. So a Davidson's chart, just so you've heard of it, I kind of like just the other one because I think it confuses it a little bit. Because anyway, but that's what it is. It's like it compares everything back and forth, but it's also to get the rising sign. It's more, of the exact middle between those two places. That's how I understand it. So we can see that the charts here, the regular composite is on the left, and we can see that rising is 2 degrees Aries, where if it were factoring in where they were born, it would be a little different, 14 degrees Aries. The house cusps are then all different. You see, 19 and 4 on the second house, Let's see if any of them change too much. No, I mean, just they're mainly like, what about so many degrees apart? But anyway, it does, you would have to just run these and see, but I just wanted to show you the difference. I just I prefer this one here on the left. I think that's, um, I don't know. I think it just, to me, it works better, but some people like to use that. And I just wanted to share that. So the last thing, just to cap it, is, um, I wanted to show you um, the Cafe Astrology site. They have a lot of good stuff there. There's the composite chart on there. You can type that in, the composite chart, and then they got synastry and relationship astrology. You can click on that. But then here they have on the composite chart, they talk about the chart in general, the ascendant aspects to the composite, the compost node, the composite node. Anyway, these are all the little things that they go through, comparing composite charts to natal charts, to progress composite. There's lots of stuff here. So they go into that, and you can see there's, quite a bit here. I just wanted to share with you because there's a little bit more. I like this site. It gives you enough about a lot of things to go on. So there's a lot of good stuff on this. All right. Well, thank you for listening. I hope this helps to dive into your relationships a little bit more. Check out those free sites and have fun with this. All right. We'll see you on the next recording. Bye for now.